Welcome to About Seniors Talk TV. I'm Victor Oliveira, President of In Our Care Home Care Service for Seniors and the host of this show. As our aging population continues to rise, we're more and more trying to understand what we can do to maintain our health and our cognition intact, to age well and minimize our chances to ever requiring outside care intervention. There are research studies, medical breakthroughs, and myths about what we can do to stimulate our brain and keep it working optimally. Equally important is our physical health, but for this segment, we're going to be focusing on the brain. Although my next guest is a master accredited senior agent working with seniors and their families to manage late in life transitions, he's also part owner of Pivotal Aging Innovations Incorporated and founding partners of the Canadian Seniors Association, a not-for-profit organization. Pivotal Aging Innovations Incorporated is a result of more than 3 decades of senior care research and experience from numerous long-term care facilities. His partner has held many roles within healthcare sector and has a master's in health studies leadership, is completing her PhD specializing in health and aging with a strong focus on people-centered care and geriatrics. Together, they're the leadership of Pivotal Aging Innovations. Please welcome Paul Cutajar. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much. And congratulations on the show, by the way.
Well, thank you so much.
Excellent.
Can you tell us a little bit of what Pivotal Aging is? Is it a concept? Is it a system?
So Pivotal Aging Innovations is a training program, a training organization. We provide training programs for healthcare workers in elder care. Specifically, we aim to deliver the Ministry of Health's mandated policy and procedure in the long-term care and retirement home industries. Our programs offer measurable results that meet or exceed the ministry's yearly compliance requirements. That's the short version of what we do.
Okay. So you talked about that it's offered to the long-term care. Is it also offered to individuals, for people who are not in an institutional setting?
So because we're offering training programs, the core of Pivotal is for the long-term care and retirement homes. However, we have other training programs that lend themselves to other professionals such as PSWs, care providers, and we'll talk a little bit about our other program. And that lends itself to being able to understand the person-centered care background, which is really what the basis of Pivotal is.
Okay. So what is Pivotal? Is it an exercise? Is it a brain stimulation system? What is it?
Pivotal?
Yes.
No, Pivotal is the culmination of all of the energies that we've been putting forward, all of the programs that we've been working with, that we've come together and created measurable results. Pivotal itself is a training organization to deliver those methods. That's what Pivotal does.
I see. And you said that the results are measurable?
They are measurable. So everything that we do, people-centered care, person-centered culture, if you can't measure what you're doing, you can't move forward. So everything that we do, all the training programs that have been created have been tried out in the field. They've been developed. We have research teams that have worked with us in that development as well. Yeah, they've been proven out in the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Pivotal is picked up the Ashby memory method.
Right.
Okay. So I believe that that is the heart of the brain exercise and stimulation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think that's where you were going to. So okay.
Talk to us about that.
So the Ashby memory method, Pivotal picked it up. We are the Ontario distributors for the Ashby memory method. It is owned by the Alzheimer's Innovation Institute out in Calgary. So we partnered with them to bring the program to Ontario. The program itself is a cognitive retention therapy program, and it's used for early to mid stages Alzheimer's and dementia patients. But the program, the uniqueness of the program is the program is developed and designed for families to use with their loved ones.
So it's an engagement process.
It's an absolute person-centered engagement process designed to bring out conversation and continue on that conversation. You know, as Alzheimer's or dementia, a lot of people interchange those two terms, and we won't overcomplicate it for the show, but people don't know what to do when they
And
get
they don't
home.
know what to say.
And they don't
either.
know what to say. So, let's say you're my dad. Not that you're older than I am. You're probably younger than I am. But let's say you're my dad, and we've just come back from a specialist, and they've told us that you have dementia of some sort. So, what do I do now? As the child, as the carer for you, what tools are at my resource to be able to do something with you? And quite often, just the fact that I don't know what to do begins to cause a rift between us. You become very challenging for me to have to deal with. So now I say, you know what, it's a lot easier if I just leave Dad alone, let somebody else take care of the problem while I go do my own thing. That creates isolation for you. And that is just going to snowball, and it's just going to get worse and worse. There is no cure at this point. We don't know when the cure is going to happen. There's a lot of money and funding and research going into it. But we looked at picking up a program that was available for families. What can I do with my loved one? And that's really where we saw the key piece of the Ashby Memory Method coming into play.
And I think that's a crucial piece, because when family pulls away, not only are they isolating themselves from the situation, their loved one welcomes that behavior.
Sure.
Because they're not comfortable talking about what they're going through.
Yeah.
So it's their way of essentially hiding their symptoms from their family.
Right.
So when the family pulls away, well, that works well for both ends, because the son doesn't have to deal with
Yep.
it, and the
Yep.
parent doesn't have to confront the diagnosis.
Right.
But there's no benefit of that.
None. And it always comes back to bite you afterwards. And that just creates more of a problem later on. If you're able to begin to do something with your parent or your loved one, who doesn't have to be a parent, that allows you that time and that connection, and quite often it's a rediscovery of things. And the program isn't designed to make them remember. The issue is still there, but it's designed to come at it at a different way, to create that conversation that helps to maintain those memories. Quite often we have families come to us afterwards and say, I never knew that about my mom. She shared this whole story with us, and I didn't know that her and Dad did this back then.
So is it like a conversation starter kit?
Absolutely.
That's what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you and I have had conversations before. If you can think about having a fresh conversation with somebody brand new, what do you say? Hey, great weather today. That's the icebreaker.
The small talk.
That's a small talk. You do that every day. But once we want to get more involved with each other, harder questions come out, or we start being a little more inquisitive, or we start having lunch together, and we start drawing that information out. That's what this program does. It allows the children to work with the parent and bring out more information. It's storytelling. It's drawing those stories out so that you can have something to converse with them later on.
Right. So, but besides being a tool of engagement, it also creates a bond, closeness, and openness between the child and, well, not the child, the adult, child and the parent.
Absolutely.
And it works on retaining current memory.
It works on retaining current memory, but that's the issue with dementia or Alzheimer's. It's the current that's the difficulty. The long-term memories, they're much easier to have access to. So what the program does, it pulls those long-term memories forward, and it just gets to the memories in a different pathway. The Alzheimer's and dementia breaks the pathway of information. So you want to get the information, you know it's there, but the pathway is broken. And what the Ashby Memory Method aims to do is create that conversation or that interaction and work on the exercises for the individual to get that information another way.
Okay. So in about a minute and a half, how is this method implemented, and how are people trained to use it effectively?
Sure. So again, because we're a training company, we offer training to professionals, and that's one way of doing it. And those people could be PSWs, care provider companies, anybody basically working with Alzheimer's or dementia. If you're dealing with a client in that area, this program could work for you. What we're launching right now is the Family and Friends program, and we said, you know what, before a family calls for help, they're at home being isolated, they're brewing and try to understand what they're going to be doing. This program is now available to them. They can get online training through the program, and they can start implementing the program with their loved ones. If they run into difficulty or they find that it's not for them, they can then connect with one of our allied professionals, and we can get them in touch with each other and have the program implemented. So it's both for families and for professionals to deliver.
And I think it's a great concept, because we hear dementia and Alzheimer's all the time, but what's lacking is, how do we deal with it? How do we engage with mom and dad?
Exactly. And that's really what the core focus for what Pivotal was looking for, was what is out there for them to do. If you Google what to do with, there's a lot of great online information, but there's nothing to do. This is a unique program. It enables you to do something.
Paul, I'm sure we could talk about this for hours, as we have, but that's all the time we have today.
Excellent.
Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to About Seniors Talk TV. We often hear there are two things that are certain in life, and that's death and taxes. Taxes are part of our everyday life, and we are legally required to pay them through various means and methods. However, when it comes to death, we pretend it'll never happen to us. The question is not if, it's when. Since we can't determine when the when is, it makes sense to plan in advance. This takes the stress out of family members having to determine what your last wishes are and having full control of details and relevant costs. If you think that planning for an eventful day is stressful, my next guest can help alleviate that stress. She's a licensed funeral director and insurance agent specializing in prepaid funeral plans, purchases, and has helped over thousands of people set up their eventual funeral plans. She is a public speaker, author, radio host, and holds a master's degree in education, and is previously a high school teacher in a community college. She brings an upbeat and lively approach to a once taboo subject. Welcome to our show, Kat Downey. Welcome,
Thank you,
Kat.
Victor. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really, really appreciate that.
Is this often a difficult topic to talk about?
For some people, certainly. I think it's admitting our vulnerability that there is an end date, and some people don't want to think about that. For the majority of people who do, they always share with me how much better they feel, like literally, cheap and cheerful. That was so easy, Kat. Thank you for helping me out. I feel so much better.
So for those people that do embrace that the ultimate day will come, why would they choose to do prepaid funeral arrangements?
Oh, fantastic question. So many people don't realize that in Ontario, when you prepay a funeral, when you prepay it in full, the funeral home work and the merchandise selected, the future cost has to be guaranteed. So this means that all the inflationary risk is on the funeral home and not on the purchaser. The other thing people are thrilled to learn about is their money is insured and guaranteed to $100,000, and they're earning 2% tax-exempt interest on this money. And it's always the purchaser's money. It's never the funeral home's money, or the funeral home doesn't have access to that money until someone has actually died. One lady I was working with last week, she had a funeral account, a regular savings account, earning about 0.5% taxed interest. When she learned that she could move her money into her funeral account and earn 2% tax-exempt interest and guarantee the future cost, I couldn't write the paperwork up fast enough for her. She said, I didn't know that. And she's not alone. Many people don't realize this.
So it's both a tax vehicle and a growth vehicle as well to have your money there?
Yes.
So
and you don't pay income tax on it.
And you don't pay income tax. So what happens with residual funds that's not utilized in the end?
What happens there, when the future cost is guaranteed, if the fund, the funeral fund, is not, it's called an eligible funeral arrangement, that's the technical name for it. If the funds in there cover the funeral cost, we're all done. If there isn't enough money in that fund, the funeral home absorbs the loss. Now here's another scenario that again was a couple weeks ago. A lady had prepaid a funeral much bigger in terms of visiting and funeral, and she died at 98. So there weren't as many people to come, and the family wanted to make it a smaller celebration of her life. Again, fine. and that family was refunded approximately $3,000 because that money wasn't used for the funeral that they did have to celebrate her life. So it goes both ways. The family will never pay any more, but if they downgrade or make a smaller arrangement, they'll get the money back.
And who makes changes to that decision? Is it the individual or the family of whether to upscale or downscale the arrangements?
Good question. When a person's alive, it's the purchaser who does this. When a person has died, it's their estate trustee who's legally responsible to do the funeral arrangements. So it would be their decision, hopefully collaborative with everyone else, but ultimately it would be the estate trustee that we would take direction from.
So nonetheless, the person's last wishes, as far as a funeral goes, the person's wishes is honored in the end.
99% of the time. I've seen one case where the family couldn't do what Mom had wanted because she died very horrifically and they didn't have a body to be able to do a funeral with. So they're not able to do that.
So in very special circumstances, that's not the case. So I guess picking up the phone and making a call, that takes a lot of nerve. Walk us through, what does that phone call, what does that initial meeting look like, just to put people at ease?
Yep. That's a good question too, because people hesitate. I mean, that is probably the toughest part of it all, to send an email or make a phone call and say, you know what, I'm raising my hand, I'd like to know more. And that's simply what it is, a conversation about what it is you have in mind. And typically I'll outline the 4 things we'll talk about, which are personal information we put on file, because eventually a death has to be registered in the province of Ontario, the type of funeral that they're thinking in mind, and usually that starts with, is it burial or cremation? When I know those things, then I know what direction to take them in terms of options and merchandise, which is the 3rd thing we talk about. And then the 4th piece is, how do they want to prepay that? So typically on the phone, I would outline this briefly to people. Then we set an appointment time. Either I go to their home, which is often what I do, and they have the documents ready that I've asked them about. For example, their mother's maiden name. And people will often say, why do you need my mother's maiden name? She's been gone a long time. Well, that's under the Vital Statistics Act in the province of Ontario. That's one of the documents we do for families, is to register a death.
We were involved, my siblings and I were involved with my parents some 12 years ago. They made prepaid funeral arrangements, and then they upgraded to a mausoleum, and very recently they changed properties.
Okay.
So it's no longer going to be in Toronto, it's going to be in the region of Peel. But it's to demonstrate the level of control that you have over prepaid funeral arrangement. It's not something that's fixed. There's always flexibility.
Exactly.
And what are some of the advantages of somebody setting out on their own to do these arrangements versus contacting someone like you?
Well, if they're going to go on their own, they're going to have to do a lot of research to get a gist of what's involved and what they have to do and what they can do. I've been doing this since 1998. I'm well versed in options and solutions for people that meet their budgets or meet their needs. And they don't have to do all the running around, because I know the lay of the land and I can help them out through this. One lady said, that was so much easier than I thought. Thank you, Kat. Oh, and that's how easy it can be. You know, so.
Now, do you work for a specific location, or can you help people throughout the region of Peel?
Throughout the region of Peel, it's like a brokerage concept. I can help people, Mississauga, Oakville, Georgetown, wherever people want me to meet, I can meet them. I go to the GTA as well.
And they choose the cemetery that they want to go to, as well as all the items required to it. I don't know the right terms.
Yeah, just to be very clear here, I don't sell cemetery property. I'm not licensed to do that. I am a funeral director and I sell prepaid funeral plans.
Okay. So how can people get a hold of you? How can people have more information? I know you were talking about taking care of business.
Well, there's 3 ways. You can look at my website, legacymatters.ca, or Kat Downey at legacymatters.ca, or 905-399-5341. And the first person to contact me after this show, I'll give them a complimentary copy of this book.
Okay. And what is that book?
Yeah, this is your adult baby book. I used to teach, as Victor, as you said, and writing curriculum and manuals is fairly easy for me. So I was noticing this huge gap, that people had the notion to be organized, They didn't know what that looked like. They didn't know what it entailed, and they didn't know how to start. So I thought, okay, I can create this. I had no idea how it would look, but I started. So it's the Taking Care of Business Executors Workbook, and it fell out into 12 sections, which are helping people know what the person has, where it is, what they want done with it. And that's the huge piece I think is different and missing from what was there. Because that's the confusion when people and executors get all wound up and, well, what did mom really want to do with that bank account? Well, here's ways to let people know where your important papers are, your insurances, your investments, your cemetery plans, your legal issues, all of that part. So this is what I've created. This is a second edition. And I'm able to help more people.
Now, it does sound like the process is somewhat complex. It's not straightforward, but imagine having to do everything that you're describing at the last minute when you get the word that mom or dad is not feeling well and passes away.
Yeah.
And you have less than 72 hours from the pronunciation of death to burial. So
Right.
that's a lot of ground to cover.
It is, and that's deliberately why I'm on the pre-need side of the table, because it's horrific to educate people. They're exhausted, they're emotionally drained, and now they have to decide, learn what options are,
Yeah.
and decide, and do all that in a relatively short time.
When we can do that ourselves, when we have our health.
Yeah, and this is the loving gift. This is leaving a loving legacy, that you have the chance to put things down the way you want, to the best of your knowledge. Don't overthink it. Start.
Just do it.
start. Get it going and take care of business.
Thank you so much Kat
Thank you.
For being on our show and sharing a wealth of information with our viewers.
Thank you so much, Victor.
We'll be right back. Thank you for watching another episode of About Seniors Talk TV. I'd like to thank my guests, Kat Downey and Paul Cutajar, for sharing their knowledge and experience with us. You can learn more about Pivotal Aging by contacting Paul Cutajar at pivotalaginginnovations.com. To learn more about estate planning, you can contact Kat Downey at katdowney@legacymatters.ca or www.legacymatters.ca. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover on this show, write to me at volivera@inrcareservices.com and we'll pick it up. Thank you for watching.